Good morning, Night TV viewers. If you're new around here, if you've never seen my face before, my name is Nike, and you're watching Night TV.
It's not that I want you here, yeah. It's not the way you say to my eyes.
This morning, I have one question. What is going on in Hampton County? So many people have asked me to cover this case. They've asked me if I heard about it, to look into it. And when I got a message at 4 o'clock this morning asking me about this case, I knew it was time to bite the bullet and to just cover it. So sit back, relax. We got a lot to unpack here. The Murdaugh family murders has been a whirlwind around It's created a whirlwind around South Carolina. There is so much information, so many investigations into different crimes. Not even just the most recent, which is the murder of the wife and son of Alex Murdaugh, Paul and Maggie. I mean, there are so many investigations surrounding this family, and I had to do so much research. I had to go back and let it play and just kind of refresh my brain, because there is just, it's a plethora of information, and y'all are not going to believe this. And listen, there is absolutely no way that I was going to be able to memorize all of this information. So I have my notes here. I have my iPad. I have everything, because there is just so much to ingest and to digest. It's absolutely no way that I'm going to be able to regurgitate these facts just off the top of my head. So if you see me looking down or you see me reading, you already know what's going on. I'm not distracted. I'm just trying to remain accurate. We've talked about this before, but this case has really blown my mind for a number of reasons. So I had to have something handy so that I can report on these things as they come, because there are, like I said, there are 6 investigations going on simultaneously. So in order to include all of that information, I have to have a guide. Most importantly, you guys need to know who the Murdaugh family is, in case you don't know. So I'm going to read from the Wikipedia page that was created surrounding the family. The Murdaugh family is a prominent legal family in the Low Country region of South Carolina, United States. From 1920 to 2006, 3 members of the family consecutively served as solicitor. And if you don't know what a solicitor is, that's a district attorney in other states, or a prosecutor, just a blanket term, okay? In charge of prosecuting all criminal cases in the state's 14th Circuit District, leading locals to call the 5-county district Murdaugh Country. So keep that in your back pocket. The family also founded a nationally influential civil litigation law firm in Hampton, South Carolina. In 2019, amid allegations of special treatment, several members of the Murdaugh family were implicated in a fatal boating accident. In 2021, 2 members of the family were murdered, while another was implicated in the mishandling of funds. As we go on, I think it will be safe to assume that while this family has had some really good fortune, they've also had some terrible fortune. Death seems to follow them in some horrible ways. For example, Randolph Murdaugh Sr. was born in Varnville and graduated from law school at the University of South Carolina. That's USC here in Columbia. Upon graduation, Murdaugh Sr. founded a one-man law firm in Hampton, South Carolina, about 65 miles inland from Charleston, in 1910. In 1920, he became solicitor in the 14th Judicial Circuit and held the position until 1940, when he was killed in a collision between his car and a train. He also ran a local daily newspaper, the Hampton County Herald. Murdaugh Sr. was succeeded by his son, Randolph Buster Murdaugh Jr., who served from 1940 to 1986. In his 42 years in office, Buster ran opposed only twice. He was known for his love of chewing tobacco, his courtroom prowess, and his flair for acting out murders before spellbound juries. According to Professor John Bloom of Cornell Law School, Buster was rebuked several times by the state Supreme Court for his closing arguments in several death penalty cases. In 1956, he was indicted by a federal grand jury for allegedly warning a bootlegger to move a still into a neighboring county to avoid the police. He was acquitted. Buster retired in 1986 and died in 1998. Buster was succeeded as solicitor by his son, Randolph Murdaugh III, who took office in 1986. He ran unopposed in every election And I don't know about y'all, but that's a problem for me, running unopposed, okay? In every election and held office until retiring in 2006. Randolph III was married to Elizabeth Alexander and had 4 children, including 3 sons. Randolph IV, called Randy, and Richard Alexander, called Alex, both of whom entered the family firm. And John Marvin, in 2019, Randolph III was awarded the Order of the Palmetto, South Carolina's highest civilian recognition by Governor Henry McMaster. He retired in 2006 and died of natural causes June 10th, 2021. So this is fairly recent. Alex graduated from USC in 1990 and from the USC School of Law in 1994. He soon joined the Murdaugh family firm, volunteering part-time in the 14th Circuit Solicitor's Office. Alex married Margaret Kennedy Brandstetter, called Maggie, and had 2 sons, Richard Alexander Jr., called Buster, and Paul Terry, who was born in 1999. And if you heard when I started speaking about the background of this family, you will remember that the elder Buster got acquitted for telling a bootlegger to move his steel to a neighboring county to avoid the police. So that tells me that he was either getting money on the back end or he had some kind of stake in this man's operation. And he got acquitted for this. They knew he did it, but because they were calling this Murdoch country and because the family was just so well known and big around the Hampton County area, nobody wanted to prosecute him. And this will become a running theme throughout this family as we continue. 2 of the biggest murder investigations or criminal investigations revolve around the sons of Alex Murdaugh. And that's Peter and Randolph, aka Buster, the younger Buster, okay? First, in 2015, was the death of a young man by the name of Stephen Smith. And I'm going to read from that article just because I want to make sure that I give the most accurate information. Late in June 2021, SLED announced it was reopening the investigation into the 2015 death of Stephen Smith, who had been found dead from blunt force trauma on a road in Hampton County. Based on details that had surfaced during the investigation into the deaths of Maggie and Paul, Smith, who was a high school classmate of Buster's, the younger Buster's, had been connected to him in interviews, but the case had gone cold. According to the Greenville News, rumors hinting at a cover-up and the possible involvement of 1 or more members of the Murdaugh family began circulating around the Hampton County area. Soon after Smith's death, and according to the Beaufort County Island Packet, the case reeked of insider interference. A running theme, okay? Remember the older Buster. Now we're on the younger Buster, and we got some more interference, okay? Stone recused himself from the investigation into the Murdaugh homicides and requested that the South Carolina Attorney General's office take over the case. So I have some video from news coverage about the reopening of this case of Stephen Smith. So go ahead and watch that clip and then I'll come back.
State Highway Patrol detailing the unsolved death of a 19-year-old man and the connections investigators found to the Murdaughs. News 2 Sophia does a report through hundreds of pages of case reports and shares what she learned tonight. Sophia.
Brendan, Stephen Smith was found dead in a roadway. Original reports say it was a hit and run, but the notes that detail Highway Patrol's years-long investigation point to a different story. We obtained photos, videos, and hours worth of interviews. The Murdoch's name coming up repeatedly. The 2015 case now getting a second look by SLED.
Hampton County 911, where's your emergency?
It's the call that would spark an investigation into what troopers thought was a hit and run.
I just going down Crocketville Road, and I see somebody laying out.
But incident report after incident report shows no sign Stephen Smith was hit by a car.
I know it kind of went back and forth, and there were different rumors and about it, him possibly getting hit by a car and this and that. He didn't get hit by no car.
Dozens of interviews we obtained show a complicated web of family members and classmates who knew the 19-year-old and the rumors spreading around Hampton County.
You don't have to agree with Stephen's lifestyle, but that don't mean that he gets to be killed and nobody gets to find out what happened.
Within a month, those rumors were pointing to Buster Murdoch, the son and brother of the 2 Murdochs shot dead in June of this year.
We didn't know who did it, but we just heard that
Investigators speaking with several people, backtracking where the tip originated from.
And did he say where he heard that from or how he was backing that up?
No, sir.
So he just said, oh, I heard Buster did it.
Yes, sir.
Did he say how he did it or what happened?
They beat him up and threw him out the truck.
According to notes, investigators received a tip that another Hampton County resident killed Smith. When investigators spoke to the tipster, he stated, quote, the reason he was passing this information on was because Buster's uncle told him to call. The Murdoch's power over the county referenced multiple times in different interviews, investigators assuring people the process was confidential.
My office is out of Charleston, okay? I don't work around Hampton, and I know that the Murdochs are highfalutin around Hampton, and you know some people say have a lot of power or whatever, but that name doesn't mean anything to me.
To my knowledge, and based on what I could find, Buster has never been prosecuted based on this information. Someone just said that he had involvement in it, but of course, being that this is Murdaugh country, without any concrete evidence, they did not try to prosecute this young man, knowing what it would mean for them, knowing that this family would come full body and full force to protect their own. So no one has ever been charged in the death of Stephen Smith. Buster remains free out on the street. He is the only one, okay, of the Murdaughs who remains out and about in Murdaugh country. And you'll find out why as I continue. Next was the death of Alex's housekeeper, a woman by the name of Gloria Satterfield. On September 15, 2021, authorities announced they were opening an investigation into the 2018 death of Gloria Satterfield, who worked as Alex's housekeeper. The death had been reported as a trip and fall, but no coroner was notified. No autopsy was performed, and the death certificate incongruously said it was by natural causes. A coroner testified that describing her death on the death certificate as natural was improper. Investigations on her death by state police were continuing as of October 2021. Satterfield's two sons were awarded a settlement of about $500,000, but by 2021, they had received no money. During settlement negotiations, the Satterfield sons were represented by Corey Fleming, a lawyer whom they did not realize had long-term close ties to Alex. Talk about a conflict of interest. Did not participate in the negotiations and did not sign an agreement. Alex Murdaugh was charged with 2 felonies related to the missing money. So as you heard, Satterfield's 2 sons were awarded a settlement of about $500,000. But when further research was done into this, really, the life insurance paid out upwards of $4 million. So where was the money? Those poor boys received nothing. Somebody was paid off because in South Carolina, and I know this from working at the prison, I have been to enough morgues and sat on enough dead inmates to know that in South Carolina, it is proper to wait for the coroner to come to pronounce death. No coroner was notified. You heard that, right? Sounds like a cover-up, sounds like a payoff to me. Alex Murdaugh told Gloria Satterfield's sons that he would ensure that they received the payout for their mother's death. Even though it wouldn't bring her back, the least he could do was pay them for this trip and fall that had occurred in his home. The boys received nothing. That $500,000 was only $250,000. Not even a quarter of the $4 million that really was paid out. So then you have Alex adding insult to injury by getting arrested for misappropriating these funds. I don't know how you can call it misappropriating. Call it stealing. Call it what it is. Call a spade because these boys received not a dime. So after his arrest, Alex just miraculously confirmed that he was entering a substance abuse treatment center for the use of drugs, trying to make excuses for where the money had gone, why he had never paid these boys. Basically, he felt like it would look better on him to go to rehab than to admit that he started stealing from these kids and just getting money from wherever he could get money from because his family was going broke. He had swindled the family's fortune. He had done so much to destroy his own family that it was trickling down to his boys. This was like a generational curse of massive proportions. So you have the one son, Buster or Randolph IV, being accused of the murder of Stephen Smith, but nobody's going to do anything about it because of that name. And then you have Gloria Satterfield dying in their home. No coroner comes. Nobody confirms what her death was. They just put natural causes because it sounds good. How is a trip and fall a natural cause? I don't understand. It wasn't a disease. It wasn't a sickness. She fell. Or according to them, that's what happened. So that's not a natural cause. So somebody should have reopened this in the beginning, but no, they just let it go because nobody wants to challenge this doggone family. On October 14, 2021, Alex was taken into custody as he was being released from the drug rehabilitation facility in Orlando by the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, or SLED, on 2 felony counts of obtaining property by false pretenses. So somebody said, you know what? Forget it. Y'all have gotten away with enough. We come to get your behind, and you're going to face justice. These charges stem from the investigation into misappropriated settlement funds in the death of Gloria Satterfield. So they attempted to make him face justice for this, but he got out on bond, of course. And where this story goes, y'all are not going to believe it. So next up in the list of scandals is the death of Mallory Beach at the hands of the Murdaugh's youngest son, Paul, in 2019. Paul Terry Murdaugh, born 1999, Alex's younger son, was charged with 3 felonies after the death of Mallory Beach during a boating accident in February 2019. He was not given a field sobriety test, was not taken to jail for booking, nor was he ever handcuffed. This led to the speculation that he could have received special treatment by virtue of his family connections. You think? Paul's blood alcohol content was 0.286, almost 3 times the legal limit for operating a motor vehicle. But the judge denied a prosecutorial request that he wear an alcohol monitor. Shortly after the accident, current 14th District Solicitor Isaac Stone III, called Duffy, recused himself from the investigation. Beach's family alleged in court documents that Alex and Buster Murdaugh were implicated in providing alcohol to the then underage Paul. As of September 2021, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, or SLED, were investigating allegations that police may have been pressured not to charge Paul. The family of another of the teens on board the boat at the time, Connor Cook, that was Mallory's boyfriend, filed a lawsuit claiming Alex had encouraged the Cook family to retain a longtime friend of Alex's, Corey Fleming, in order to orchestrate the protection, not the prosecution, of Paul. Sometime before June 7th, 2021, Maggie Murdaugh made arrangements for a forensic accountant to review the family finances. Paul was free on bail, attending USC and awaiting trial. So guys, if you have not noticed a pattern of privilege here, you have not been listening. This man was never handcuffed. He was never taken to jail. Nothing happened. The judge, of all people, declined to give him an alcohol monitor. That was the least that could have happened for this grieving family. I mean, show that you have some kind of care regarding this young lady. She lost her life. And because this family's name rings bells, this boy just gets away scot-free. How many people do you know that got a DUI or a BUI in this instance, since it was a boat? How many people do you know got off scot-free for causing an accident, especially one where death results? None, right? I'll wait. But because the Murdaugh family name is synonymous with murder, and because they have so many other things going on, whereas they have people on their payroll who should not be there, they're able to get off scot-free. I know this was a slap in the face to this young lady's family, that nothing occurred. She didn't get to have an alcohol monitor. She didn't get to have anything. She got a casket and a burial plot at the hands of this young man, and no one did a dang thing about it. Also, Paul was charged with 3 felonies. Charged, not convicted, but with 3 felonies, and he was never handcuffed. That blows my mind. These were not misdemeanors. These were not just the antics of young kids running around underage drinking. No, someone died. He got 3 felonies, but none of the normal instances occurred for Paul because of his last name. And I'm going to keep saying that because no one should be above the law, not even a family who comes from a long line of district attorneys. So next in a long line of tragedies was the murder of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh. That is the wife and youngest son of Alex Murdaugh. They called it revenge for the death of Mallory Beach. No one has ever proven it. It has never been just concretely confirmed. But a lot of people say that this was revenge for Mallory's death. On June 7th, 2021, Alex Murdaugh discovered the bodies of his 22-year-old son, Paul, and 52-year-old wife, Maggie, near the dog kennels at the family's hunting lodge in Islandton, South Carolina. So this wasn't even at their main house. This was their hunting lodge in Colleton County. Both had been shot multiple times with different weapons. Alex, who called 911 around 10 p.m., said that he had been with his terminally ill father, Randolph III, and mother, who has dementia, at the time of the killings. Randolph III died of natural causes 3 days later on June 10th, 2021. In October 2021, it was revealed that Alex was always a person of interest with police, or SLED, investigating him from the start. As of October 2021, SLED had not released any information about the investigation. A South Carolina lawmaker described SLED Chief Mark Kill as a straight arrow who wants to have an airtight case. He knows he's up against the good old boys, oh yes, who will bury him if he gets the tiniest thing wrong. He's not dropping anything until he's absolutely sure. According to Fitz news sources close to the investigation, they say that at least one of the murder weapons belonged to the Murdaugh family. So who comes on your property, takes your murder weapon, and kills you? Furthermore, who knows that you're not going to be at your main house? You're going to be at your hunting lodge. This has Alex Murdaugh written all over it. You can say what you will, but there is no way that somebody did not receive some insider information that these two were going to be at their second home at the time of this. Is just too coincidental for me. None of this lines up. But Alex Murdaugh was implicated, but he was never proven to be involved. And as the investigator said, if he got the smallest thing wrong, they were going to bury him, and they definitely will. If you've never heard of good old boys, here is a little rundown for you. You know, in South Carolina, because this is such a red state, because it is such a Republican state, they call it good old boy country because the white men rule the roost. There's no other way to put it. There's no way to sugarcoat it. The white men rule the roost. And if you have a little bit of power, then all the more better for you. But what he's saying is, because he knows that this family has so much power, has so much pull, if he would have reported on the smallest thing and they could not prove it, then he was going down. They would come for his job. They would come for his family. Because as you can see, this family felt like they were above the law, that nothing could happen to them. So many people died in their wake and nothing occurred. Who is in prison? Somebody tell me. Who in the Murdaugh family is in prison after all of these accusations, after all of these proven events? Nobody went to jail. So this man was being smart because he knows that if anybody finds that there is just a little bit of a loophole in what he's saying, it's over for him and possibly his family. So I don't blame him here. But a lot of people were saying that this was revenge for Mallory Beach's murder. Also, how many times have you heard of people killing or putting hits out on others for the life insurance money? I sure have. Remember John List? Killed his whole entire family because he felt like them being dead was better than them being broke. So you have a lot to just get through with this case. And it's not impossible, but it just doesn't make sense to me. You just so happen to not be there at the time of your wife and son's murder when it seems like y'all did everything up until this point as a family. And especially given the fact that his father died 3 days later, I may be reaching here, but if this man was terminally ill, why were you the only one going to visit him? This seems like a setup to me. It really does. Like you just had to be elsewhere so that this could be orchestrated, so that these murders could occur. But I'm going to move on from that because I wasn't there. I don't know all of the logistics. And it really doesn't sit right with me that he's the one that discovered the bodies. How? In case you all didn't know, while I'm fairly certain that the deaths of Mallory Beach and Stephen Smith were widespread around South Carolina, it was the deaths of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh that thrust the family into the national spotlight. That's what brought it to my attention, because before this, I had never heard of this family. And I'm an avid true crime watcher. I'm an avid YouTube watcher. I had never heard of any of these things until these two were murdered. So take that with a grain of salt. As if all of that was not enough. On September 4th, 2021, Alex was allegedly shot in the head while changing a tire on a rural road. He claimed a truck slowed down, shot him, and then drove away. Keep in mind, the injury was superficial, okay? And he was released from the hospital soon after. The shooting occurred one day after he was forced to resign from the law firm, PMPED. On September 15th, SLED announced that Alex's former client, Curtis Edward Smith, who had also been his supplier of oxycodone, had been arrested for having conspired with Alex to kill him in the roadside shooting so that his remaining son, Buster, the younger Buster, would receive a $10 million insurance payout. The family was going broke. This man was orchestrating all kinds of death schemes to recover from the pit he had dug his family into. Anybody could get it, except Buster, it seems, because he wanted to leave his son $10 million. And there was a clause in the life insurance that expired after like 2 months or 2 years or something of the sort. So really, him killing himself would not have done any good anyway. His son may have gotten a payout, but it wouldn't have been what he thought because that clause had long expired. Smith was charged with assisted suicide, aggravated assault and battery, and insurance fraud. Alex, suffering from massive depression and wanting to kill himself, admitted to concocting the assisted suicide as a murder scheme. He was motivated by a mistaken belief that his son Buster would not receive the insurance money if he committed suicide. So he was mistaken in all of this. Everything that he had done up until this point, I don't know if we can call it a mistake or we can just call it what it is. Pure evil. When they say money or the love of money is the root of all evil, believe it. Money is not everything, but image to these people was everything. So this man was willing to have himself killed so that his son could have some money left when the whole entire family passed away. I don't know about you, but I'd rather have my family. The money is nice, but I'd rather have my family any day. And Buster, with his less than innocent self, was given power of attorney soon after. In September, Alex gave broad powers of attorney to his son Buster, including the power to sell and dispose of his assets, which Buster proceeded to do in a big way. He was soon after allegedly seen at a Las Vegas casino. So like father, like son, right? On November 1st, a judge ordered the Murdaugh assets to be frozen. So now nobody can get the money. Buster and Alex sought to overturn it, saying they had no money to pay for food, medical insurance, and utilities. Well, sir, I don't know if you can find those things in a casino, but food, maybe. Medical, no. Utilities, no. They're going to pay their bills. But you are in a Las Vegas casino and you did not seem concerned about paying for these things before you left. Nobody thought about being wise with this money. Although Maggie did hire a forensic accountant to go over their funds because she knew they were losing money in a big way. I'm not sure if she ever said anything. There's no evidence of that, where she ever said anything to her husband. But I'm sure he knew that she was concerned after her hiring a forensic accountant to go over their books, because the money was dwindling faster than anyone had ever seen it before. It was going at a rapid pace. And why were you in a Las Vegas casino after the death of your mother and brother? Does anybody care about each other in this family? Or is it just about money? Embezzlement and other crimes. On November 19, 2021, Alex Murdaugh was indicted on 27 charges of embezzlement and other crimes. The crimes include breach of trust, fraudulent intent, money laundering, computer crimes, and forgery. On December 11th, an additional 21 criminal charges were filed connected to an alleged scheme that sought to defraud victims of more than $6 million. This man was trying it from every direction. I don't know where all this money went, whether it went to drugs, whether it went to gambling, but it was gone. So this man was taking money from anywhere he could get it. That is not how this family began. They used to rule the roost, and now they were going broke, and Alex Murdaugh was really willing to do anything to recover that fortune, even kill the ones closest to him. But once again, that has never been confirmed. SLED is suspicious of him, but he has not been charged in the deaths of his wife and son. So again, take that with a grain of salt. Now let's rewind a bit to 2009, because although this is mentioned last, it is certainly not least. This was the most messed up thing that I think this family has done since all of this began. And this was before they were in the national spotlight. This was before all of these other deaths occurred. This was about Hakeem Pinckney, a deaf African-American man. Hakeem Pinckney was a deaf African-American man involved in a 2009 traffic accident that required permanent life support. Murdaugh personally represented the Pinckney family in a lawsuit against the manufacturer of the vehicle. The family was awarded a settlement. In 2011, Pinckney died at a care facility after his ventilator was, according to a Pinckney lawyer, mysteriously unplugged. Mysteriously unplugged. Murdaugh's law firm handled a wrongful death lawsuit against the care facility. Murdaugh allegedly introduced Pinckney's family to Russell, Laffitte, the CEO of Palmetto State Bank, to manage the Pinckney's finances due to the size of the settlements. The Pinckneys received some money, but an estimated $800,000 to $1 million went missing. In January 2022, the board of Palmetto State Bank fired Laffitte after allegations came to light he was involved with Murdaugh to defraud Pinckney. Is anybody surprised here? I'm certainly not. Anything this man or his family got their hands in, somebody died and some money went missing. So not only was this family being accused of receiving special treatment, they were literally getting away with murder. And it will be no surprise to me, and I'm sure a lot of you all out there viewing this, it will be no surprise to you that Alex Murdaugh is acquitted of everything he's been accused of up until this point. Now, it seems like the state of South Carolina is really getting fed up with this family's antics, but they only do it to make an example out of them. They only do it to make themselves look good, to say, hey, nobody's above the law. We are prosecuting them. Now, whether the charges stick or not is another situation. But the only thing they did was bring these people to justice. It doesn't mean that they're ever going to see a day of prison. But they did. They can get away with saying, we did arrest him. We did bring him up on charges. But just like Trump, it's not going to stick. The more I dug into this family's background, the more disgusted I became. Like, people were dying. They were dying. They were losing their lives. And because they had money, because they were able to pay kickbacks and just influence everybody in power, they never, ever had to take responsibility for what they had done. But now they look horrible due to Alex Murdaugh and his family. Everything else was swept under the rug. They could do a little bit here and there, and nobody said too much, you know, because things happen. But Alex Murdaugh's family imploded. The entire Murdaugh family as a whole, like everybody except for Maggie, was murdering people left and right. What happened? I know there are other family members here, but like Alex Murdaugh, Paul, Buster, everybody was just diminishing the family's credibility one body at a time. It just goes to show you how small towns bury secrets. And if you ever found yourselves in the clutches of this family, I am sorry for you. But if you don't hear it, Murdaugh, It sounds too similar to me. It was like a self-fulfilling prophecy of a family who built their fortune on other people's bad luck. But I told you guys there was a lot to unpack here. I couldn't go into each case and each investigation because this video would be 1,000,000 hours long. But if you want to look into these things, I've mentioned the names of everybody involved, of the deceased. You can go and you can look them up individually because they're not put together. They are individual cases. But this has been the Murdaugh family murders. I hope you guys learned something today. I hope I covered this to the extent that you were more informed than you were going in. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let it go because I could speak on this for hours and hours. There is so much, like I said in the beginning, to unpack here. But this has been Night TV. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.
Talk to me.